wish that I could just wish away my feelings, but I can't.
Sand hurts my feelings.
I don't like sand, sand,
Hurts my
sand.
feelings.
Haunted by fake sand in my very soul. Sand, sand. Are you suffering as much as I am?
Sand
I
hurts
can't
my
breathe.
feelings. Sand,
Tormenting me. I'm in agony. Sand,
hurts my
sand.
feelings.
I don't like sand.
Hello, and welcome to The Sand Hurts My Feelings, a Star Wars podcast from a Swiftie point of view. I'm your host, Sarah,
And I'm your other host, Alex.
and today we are diving into our content. We will be looking at Princess Leia Organa and picking a song from Taylor Swift's debut album that we feel best describes her or exemplifies a moment that we see from her throughout Star Wars canon.
Yes, and we'll also be talking a little bit about our experiences with Taylor Swift's debut album to give that kind of content. But also we have to talk a little bit about what's going on in Taylor Swift world. We're still waiting for Reputation and the debut Taylor's versions. So we're waiting on those.
Yes. So, listeners, you might think it's a bit of an interesting choice to start. Like, yes, the debut album's a logical place to start, but it's not Taylor's version. So, we're very excited to get that. And we're definitely going to talk about it on this podcast. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. And we're still basking in the glow of the Tortured Poets department and soaking in all 31 of those amazing songs.
Yeah, it's still one of those. I don't really understand this album as much, or that sounds weird. I don't understand my reaction to it as much because this is the album where in my previous listens and of because I've been with Taylor most of her releases, as we'll talk about in a minute, but I've never had an album where I'm just like I want to keep listening and like I can listen to it and just listen over and over and over and over again. It's been like, okay, I've listened to it, cool. I'll give it a little bit, give it a day, something like that, and I can still just listen to that, and that's all I could listen to, all 31 songs. So
Yeah, I was going to say that's exclusively what you listen to for basically a month.
it was, yes. No, that was all I listened to. Now I can still listen to other things, and I'm back to podcasts. But yeah, it's still, I can still just throw that on anytime. It's weird. But I know that's what a lot of other people were feeling about a lot of the other songs. So I guess it's just this is the one that actually really, really hit me.
Right. I mean, there's some very emotionally raw songs on the Tortured Poets department that, if you can sympathize or empathize with them, they grab you. And it's hard not to get drawn into that.
And talk about getting drawn into things, the Acolyte's out, which is so good.
We love, love, love The Acolyte. Every Tuesday, right at the drop time or as close to the drop time as we can, we watch it. And it has been so refreshing for both of us to see Star Wars in a time period that hasn't been explored before and something that is detached from kind of the existing canon. I mean, yes, there's connections to High Republic. Alex and I have read a couple of the books, but High Republic's not really our jam. But this show is not dependent on, say, watching the whole Skywalker saga or knowing The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett. Like, you can just pick it up on its own, and so far it's its own contained story.
And it expands on the lore. Like that's the thing.
Mhm.
To me, this is just an expansion of lore and everything that I just love about the show versus like it has to get to a certain place. Because that's I think the issue that a lot of the other I wouldn't say issues, but like that's kind of the things that like most of Star Wars has been in the past of like it has to get to a certain place of like the prequels have to get to Anakin turning. The sequel trilogy has to get to a point where everybody's okay. Like, but we don't know where this is. Like, we know everybody ends up okay in this, but we don't know where and we don't know how. And it's just expanding. And again, it's not a main character
Well, I mean,
revolving
I
around
I don't even think we know that everyone ends up okay.
right. I don't mean like we know how the Republic ends up.
Okay,
I mean
right.
bigger
Larger
story,
picture,
yes.
yeah, because
Larger picture, no.
Acolyte takes place 100 years before the events of Phantom Menace. So, right, there is that constraint of like the Republic is in decline. The Jedi are losing their connection with the Force, as Mace and Yoda talk about in the prequel trilogies. But like these are all new characters. So, anytime you're in like a tense situation, like this character could die.
Right. And like no spoilers or anything on that, but like that's what I'm talking about. Like we know because with everything else, it's the whole galaxy is at stake. And with this, we know that it's not necessarily the galaxy that's at stake here. Like it's a smaller story. And so it's still
Hmm.
fascinating, still really
Hmm.
cool and expands on that lore and stuff like that, but it's a smaller story of like it's not by the end, the galaxy will end. Or at least if it does get to that point, we know that it doesn't. So that's why I don't think
Right,
they're going to do that, or
right.
they do that. But anyway, all right. Now we've now talked about both Taylor Swift and Star Wars. So as you all can tell, this is a Star Wars Taylor Swift podcast. So I will dive in as I am the original Swiftie of the family.
Yes.
I my experience with the Taylor Swift debut album, I was not a day one Swiftie. So when it came out, I was not a day one, but I was pretty close after. I found her songs online. I can't exactly say where or anything. Again, it was back in 2006. So way before, like it used to be like YouTube or Yahoo Music or whatever is where you got all the new music and stuff like that. There wasn't much stuff. And so I found that there, but I very much enjoyed her, and it took me, and I was so after that I became a fan, and it took a couple years because again, 16-year-old saving money, not necessarily wanting to spend a ton of money on those kind of things at that time. I actually bought this debut album from my cousin who did our cover art for the podcast, Piper. Shout out to Piper. I bought it from her after Fearless had come out, but I bought it for $5. And it was the original CD. So I was listening to her and seeing the music videos before that, but was unable to have the CD. And so I bought the CD from her. And so that is my experience with debut. So I'm close to a day oneer, but not completely. I won't claim that mantle of a day one Swifty.
That's really nice that, Piper, who is so gracious enough to help us with our cover art, was like, gave you her copy or like sold you her copy. I think that's very sweet.
Yeah, because I don't remember why she got it. That was the thing, because like she didn't want it. She didn't like it. Like she
Oh,
thought it was like too country because it
oh,
was it
sure.
was country. Like she didn't like it, and that may have changed now, but at the time I know she didn't. Wasn't a huge fan of it, and I kind of pestered her about it because I'm like, hey, you have Taylor Swift. I saw this album. I saw that you have this album. I want it. Can I have it, please? I'll buy it from you. And she eventually bought it, sold it to me, which was very nice of her. And thank you, Piper, for continuing my Taylor Swift love. And so we had a lot of fun. I had fun with that, and so then that became a good, nice song and nice album that I enjoyed.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. I have a very different experience with the Taylor Swift debut album. I think the comment that you made earlier about Piper maybe not necessarily liking it because it was too country is very, very much how I felt. Honestly, the Taylor Swift debut album, I don't think was on my radar. Like, I was thinking back to what I was listening to in 2006, and I was listening to Daughtry. I was listening to Kelly Clarkson. And to be honest, I was listening to a lot of jazz. I had joined the school jazz band and was falling in love with it and just could not stop listening to like 40s and 50s jazz. So I was that cool kid. But country music was never really my jam. So I don't think, well, no, I know I didn't sit down and listen to the entirety of the Taylor Swift debut album until we started dating Alex. And that was in 2019.
Oh, it was later than that because that one was a hard one to sell to you because you didn't want to listen to it, and we made our deal of you'll listen to all of Taylor Swift's albums and I'll listen to like a select 11, or at the time it was 9, Elton John albums. Because I didn't have anything against Elton John, but I was like, I know his hits, and that's about it. And you were huge into Elton John, and so like I deliberately avoided the debut album in that of like, hey, we're gonna start with these and keep these goes. No, I deliberately avoided the debut because I knew you didn't like the country.
No, and I remember listening to it and like certain songs I could recognize, like Tim McGraw, Teardrops on My Guitar. I'm like, okay, I've heard these at different points before, but I don't even like thinking back to 2016 on the radio. I don't remember hearing them on the radio. But I remember when I was done listening to it and you asked me what I thought of it, I'm just like, that was a country album.
Yeah, that's why I'm amazed at how you have come around on her because yeah, when we listened to that, you were just like, yep, okay, that was not your favorite, and it still isn't your favorite, but like I think you can now appreciate it a lot more.
I definitely do. I appreciate it for what it is. And to me, it's fascinating to see that this is where this megastar started and how that has progressed. And I'm very curious how she's going to present Taylor Swift Taylor's version to us, kind of for those reasons. But no, if I'm listening through like all of Taylor's music on shuffle, like I'm usually pretty good about not skipping a song, but if I skip a song, it's usually from the debut album.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive in to our wonderful discussions. We came through and we went and listened to or talked, read, looked at the album, and Sarah and I both picked a song that we think most epitomizes Leia Organa solo. Sarah, why don't you take us away? Who do you got? What do you got?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do I got? So this one, I didn't pick a specific moment for Leia. It's a bit of a long view of like her overarching character as we see her struggles throughout time. So I picked Tied Together with a Smile. I picked this song because she hides so much of her grief throughout the saga. She loses her planet, she loses her parents, she loses Han both like in carbonite and then in death. She loses her son and her brother. She loses Holdo, and then she just has the burdens of leadership. I mean, she has the burdens of leadership as a princess on her planet and what that means for her people, then as a senator in the Galactic Senate, and then as a leader of the rebellion and the resistance, and then in the New Republic. It just continues to build, and the amount weighing on her is immense. Leia's a very capable woman and can handle a lot, and I think leads with a lot of grace and dignity. Like she's just has a strength that I cannot fathom. But there's these moments where like I think you can see through the cracks, or like to me this is kind of the song that I don't want to say she sings to herself, but like it's that moment where she can breathe. And to me the chorus really the chorus is repeated I think 3 or 4 times in this song, and to me the chorus is where that really hits home. So the chorus is, hold on baby, you're losing it, the water's high, you're jumping into it and letting go, and no one knows that you cry but you don't tell anyone, that you might not be the golden one, and you're tied together with a smile but you're coming undone. About how you have to put on a facade for other people. In this song it's, an unrequited love. Taylor singing about how she or someone else was giving love to a person, and they, you're the penny that was left out in the rain. But in Leia's case, you put on the brave face for the rebellion, the resistance, for your people, even if you feel doubt, even if you feel insecure, even if you know the situation's not going to be good. There's definitely times, I think especially that we see in the sequel trilogy and The Last Jedi, where like she's just trying to keep her head above water. She's treading water and is just very overwhelmed with the whole immensity of the situation. Yeah, so that is my pick. Tied Together with a Smile for Princess Leia Organa.
I can say I thought about using that one, but I think I like your analysis of that, because I tried to analyze it, but I looked too much of what the song is mainly about for Taylor in that like it's about a boy, and I was just like, she's not putting on a face for a boy necessarily in any of like that she loves with, because like she's got Han and Han is with her the whole time, but so I really like that analysis. I did not, yeah, because I thought about that song. I was like, yeah, like it works really well. The chorus works really well, but then I was just like, oh, but it's not about a boy, and that's a problem, and that's my own problem. But I do work. I'm gonna work on that, and I know I worked on that in later songs of like how do I get this to relate to a broader theme and not just a boy. But I will say that is a tough piece about the debut album.
Well, and I would say they're all very, because she's writing what she was feeling and seeing, and so it's all very much like a teenage love, and most of it is like is the unrequited love, or I have a crush and he doesn't know kind of a thing, and that's not something we necessarily get a lot of in Star Wars. So yeah, I took this long view and kind of took it as her relationship in leadership. So right, creative liberties, but that's part of the podcast is our interpretation and how we can make connections.
Absolutely. So for my selection for Leia is I chose A Place in This World. And so mine comes from like what really struck me was the line, I'm alone on my own, and that's all I know. I'll be strong, I'll be wrong. Oh, but life goes on. Oh, I'm just a girl trying to find a place in this world. And to me, that really hits with Leia, especially in A New Hope, when she has been doing a lot, and everything we know in Star Wars and canon and everything is that she's been with her parents and working against the Empire and all that kind of stuff. But then her whole planet is destroyed. And with her whole planet goes her parents and her family and all of her connections. She still has people in the rebellion, but like most of her connections, like her whole world is basically like literally and figuratively blown up. And so to me, this song struck to that chord of like, I'll be strong, I'll be wrong. So like not saying like I'll make bad decisions, I'll make mistakes, but like life goes on, and I have to keep fighting, and that's kind of where I got there. Also, I'm alone on my own. And I'm like, yep, your family was just killed. But then also another line in that song that I really liked was that maybe I'm a girl on a mission, but I'm ready to blow. Mm-hmm. And so I like that because, again, relates to A New Hope of like she's got her mission of she's got to get the plans to the rebellion, and that is her plan. And she basically puts all of her grief, everything behind her, and like this is what I have to do, and this is what I'm doing. And then I also like just the metaphor of like I'm ready to blow because like she's gonna blow up the Death Star, and like she basically led to that happening. So that was my little connection in with Leia and A Place in This World. And so as I actually checked myself right now, all of her songs are not about boys, but yep. So they are not all about boys.
Good. You have to check yourself. They're not. No, certainly her biggest hits off of that album are, but I really like that pick for her too. And as you were talking, I know most of your discussion was about A New Hope, but I can definitely see these connections for Princess Leia of Alderaan, the young adult novel by Claudia Gray. It's a coming of age story, so I mean this is a coming of age song, and so no, Leia's not alone, but she's trying to figure out what it means to be herself, but then to also be the Princess of Alderaan, and what that means to take the mantle and to lead. And I think what you were describing there of I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to be wrong, but we're going to move on, and I'm going to be strong. Like that's, to me, is the lessons that she learns also in that wonderful, wonderful novel. So I really like that pick.
Yeah. So, but also just to give you all a heads up, we will be spoiling things because I will tell you later down, like spoiling books and stuff like that. We will give you a heads up if you haven't read something. I'll say like, hey, spoiler about this because we are going to discuss in depth certain pieces because we chose all. At least I know I chose all different forms of media. So I did not limit myself to just the movies. So I have books, TV shows, all that kind of comics, books, movies, all that kind of stuff. So we will let you guys know when it's coming, but we will be spoiling stuff.
Yeah, wherever we see the character in the new Disney canon is fair game, to be honest. And I know I've pulled in thinking about how different songs can work and connect with that.
Right. And so not to say that like you are a bad person for not having read something, but like it's been out for a while. You have had a chance. So it's not like we're going to like spoil something that like it just happened. But like but I'm just like it's been out for a while, so if you don't know what happens, we'll give you the heads up, but we're still going to talk about it. So,
I just kind of want to throw the little bit in there too, just for funsies, because there's like a gazillion BuzzFeed quizzes out there in the world about like which Taylor Swift song are you or which Taylor Swift album are you. I, for funsies, did a BuzzFeed quiz about which like iconic Taylor Swift song are you. And I did it from Leia's perspective as best as I could. And the song that I got was Teardrops on My Guitar. And neither of us picked it. And I just found that curious and interesting and fun. I kind of liked taking the quiz from someone else's point of view.
that's wrong.
Oh, but we said at in our pilot episode that there's no right or wrong answer.
That's wrong.
Okay, why is Teardrops on My Guitar a wrong choice for Leia?
Because there's no point where she's wants to be with somebody and they ignore her. Because like the only one that works for her is Han, and Han is the one that's literally trying to fight to get her attention. So unless you give me a great explanation, and so that's where I guess I will say because again with the BuzzFeeds, I've done a couple of those too, and I'm interested in them, but I'm like they don't give you great explanations. So if you do this with us, and we would love you as fans and listeners to send in any of your thoughts on what you think Leia would be on what song is the best song for Leia on the debut album. If you give me a good explanation, I will validate it. But if you just say Teardrops on my guitar, I will say you're wrong because you have to defend it. You can't just say this is the perfect one because it's hard.
That's the teacher in you coming out there having to provide an explanation. It may be a stretch, but as you were talking there, I'm like, well, no, it's not for a boy who she loves but doesn't love her back, but like, could it be that the reason that she cries at night is Tarkin or Darth Vader, and like, because they destroyed her world?
But she cries at night because she's in love with someone. There would be something of like she's yes, she cries at that's the problem though, is that they all think of like, oh, she's crying, she's sad. And I'm like, yes, Leia's life is tragedy, but like you can't just say that's the song because it's a sad song. You have to explain it. Anyway.
No, that's fair. I just wanted to throw that out there for funsies. If you think that Teardrops on My Guitar is a great pick for Leia, please send us a thread or a message and let us know. We want to hear your thoughts and keep this dialogue going. But we're going to wrap up this episode, and we're going to tee up our next episode where we will be taking a look at Fearless, Taylor's version, and figuring out which song we think best fits Leia or represents Leia from that glorious Taylor version album.
So if you want to follow along with us and let us know what you think is the best Taylor Swift song from Fearless that represents Leia, please let us know. You can contact us through our social media. We have Instagram, which is The Sand Hurts My Feelings Pod. We have Threads, which is also The Sand Hurts My Feelings Pod. We have email, which is also The Sand Hurts My Feelings Pod @gmail.com. And then we also have a Facebook, The Sand Hurts My Feelings Podcast. So please drop us a line on any of those, and if we get enough people, or get anybody, honestly, we can then maybe turn that into a listener segment, and that would be super fun to just get some dialogue. And because again, we're just two Swifties looking at Star Wars. There's plenty of other people out there. That's one thing that I think I've really enjoyed about starting this podcast is, in our research and leading up to it, I've found a lot more people that connect the two than what I originally thought. I thought it was going to be kind of like a niche thing, but I'm like, I think it's actually pretty big, that there's people that do that, have that connection and crossover.
Yeah. So we're not alone in this world.
We're not alone. But we are trying to find our place in this world.
Yes, we're trying to find our place, but we're going to be strong.
We're going to be wrong.
We'll hold on. See, I don't know the lyrics.
Yeah. All right, but
Thank you so much for joining us, and may the Force be with you forever and always.
May the Force be with you.
Forever and always.